I'm calling the meeting to order at 10:05 for the November board meeting, and I'll establish a board quorum, which Shay Wright is missing today, and we'll proceed on from there. And hopefully this meeting won't last too terribly long today. I'm going for the record. Probably not gonna work. Anyway, Shay's not here, so we do have the minutes from the October meeting, the way they were posted out here on the board. If anybody has any questions, I'll address them now. If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same. Thank you. Treasurer's report, Sarah.
For the month of October, the checking account balance is $14,855. Equipment savings, we've moved up $1. It's $39,213. Operating savings, $22,503, with total bank accounts of $76,571. Inventory is the amount that for the monitor station supplies, and this account is adjusted only at year end, but the amount in there is $10,654, which gives us total assets of $87,225. We have no liabilities, and so we have like a net income throwing $8,135.
Good.
At this point, yeah. For the revenue, we had monitor sales, including clay glazes, fire tickets, tools of $3,285 this month. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding the treasurer's report? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move.
Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded to accept the treasurer's report for October 31st. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same. Motion carries. We'll go to committee reports, and I'm going to ask you to let me do a favor here to Gretchen and let her go first.
Oh,
Gretchen,
do I have to go up there?
we would like you
Yes.
to.
Okay.
And I forgot to announce that early on. My job today is to get everybody up here. Because when we're not up here, A, people can't see you and they can't identify your voice, so they have no idea who's speaking to us, so. Gretchen.
Right here, okay?
Sure.
The Oktoberfest, we had 121 people that attended. It was too crowded, so Margie went ahead and got us set up for the next happy hour over at the Coons Courtyard in March, I believe.
Yeah, in 2022.
In 2022, so that is it's such a much nicer facility, so that'll work out way better. We had brats and fixings, beer and wine. We had 18 bottles of wine left over, which we're gonna use for prizes for the holiday party. Paid out about $744. So far this year, we paid out about $28.52. I'm still in the planning stages of the holiday party. I haven't heard back from the caterer yet, so I don't have a set number. But in 2019, the holiday party had 130 people, which I'm gonna kind of go with. I think that's gonna be a good number to estimate everything. And the food cost about $34.18 altogether, but that did also include dessert. And I'm kind of thinking of doing our own desserts, but anyway, we'll get into that later. It's December 5th, 5 o'clock, Palm Ridge. We're thinking lasagna, chicken provençal, tossed green salad, green beans, almondine, and garlic breadsticks. And I might add a potato or a rice dish to go with that. I haven't quite figured this all out yet. I can get cheesecake and brownies for around $250, and we can serve them like Margie suggested, take a cupcake holder and just flatten it out and do our own. Or we can go with their desserts, which are a little more expensive. In the past, I'm gonna ask them to put the desserts out after everyone's been served, because people go straight from the food line to the desserts, take 10 desserts, and the people at the end are like, wait a minute. So they didn't get any desserts, so we gotta fix that. Okay, so I've got the DJ in order. That's $400 because we did a deposit of $100 last year it's just moved forward, so we owe them $400. I probably will spend about $200 on prizes and decorations. I'm not sure. Penny did some really cool Christmas trees that she and they're gonna be given out as prizes at the tables. I'm thinking around 4,000 to 4,500, and I'm just wondering, my budget, we kinda estimated around 8,000, so I'm gonna fall under that. So am I okay with taking that on and just, if the desserts, I'd rather not take a lot of time and dish up desserts, but I will if I have to.
No, let's do it as simple so that you can enjoy the party too.
And also,
the-
are we gonna charge for the members or give it back?
Well, one of the things we always do, correct me.
Oh,
if
we
I'm
get the
wrong,
money up
yeah,
front.
We get $10, do we get the whole money?
I think at the parties,
Yeah, I think we
the
do.
holiday party, yeah, you get the money up front, and it was 20-some dollars, I think, cause it is more expensive. And so we get that money, and then we charge for the member and their guest, and then we gave the guests, or excuse me, the member money back, but that's changed
Yeah.
now with the tax law, so
Well-
we were gonna give the guest, let the guests eat free and charge the members.
Right.
Or, because I've got a little bit of extra money there, we were thinking about just letting them all have their money back for the whole thing, so. That's where we're at, I don't know, I don't even have to tell them that going in to get this set up, so we can decide that later.
Well, I think we ought to go ahead and decide it. Go
Would it
ahead,
make a
Sean.
difference if you understood how much money actually you took in from guests? I mean,
Last time,
Last.
it is broken out, I can go get that.
Is it, yeah,
Well, I think what,
It's about $1,000 difference, but those were the guests, so we have to do the exact opposite. We can't-
right,
Or we could charge maybe $15 and call it good, or
Okay,
whatever,
just-
I'm not sure.
just for clarification for people that may be watching this video, we only have, this is a one-time deal. Because in 2022, I don't anticipate this being a problem, but because of the income the club has already taken in this year, we don't wanna take any more income from outside people that are not members in our club to have to put on our taxes. So what we're thinking of doing this year, instead of doing it like we normally would, you and Todd, well, you're a bad example, cause you both belong. Janet, or Barb, excuse me, Barb and Rod would come, and in the past, we gave back Barb's check. Well, because we always ask them for 2 checks, we don't ask them for 1, we ask them for 2, because if it's $20 for each check, then we've always handed 1 back, and the club has taken the other in as income. This year, we need to do it in reverse. We need to take it from our own members, so that it is recorded in our books as member income, as opposed to non-member income. Now, for a couple like Barb and Rod, it's the same thing. She gets back they get back $20, we just don't take Rod, we take it back from Barb. Now, it does cause a little bit of an issue for someone that is single and comes by themselves, that member is going to have to pay for their meal. Gretchen and I have discussed, do we have enough money to just say, okay, this year, everybody gets their checks back? And I would say, if I heard what you said right, Gretchen, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's about $4,500 to $5,000 for this.
I'm thinking about 45 max, I'm hoping,
Okay.
yeah, I don't have my quote back from the caterer yet, and I can certainly
No, that's okay.
work things around to make it work, so.
Well,
Like, if I do the desserts by myself,
Well-
then that's a given.
the reason I'm asking that question is just for the membership. It looks to, your budget this year was $8,000 total for the year. You've only expended $28.52. Does that include the monies we just spent with the Oktoberfest? Okay, I would personally say that this looks to me like it's covered for the club. It's still been a tough year for a lot of people that couldn't be here because, and they're now they're able to now come back across the Canadian border, and some of those things are coming on. It might be a good year to say, let's gift it, with the idea that that's not the way it always is. And it's not a $45 meal, it's a meal that is cost effective, in my opinion, that if we wanna do that. Now, would be willing to hear any comments anybody has. I mean, I think you would support that, is that correct?
Yes,
Gretchen?
I think I've got the money in my budget to
Okay.
cover that, to
Okay.
just have it.
How about anybody else in the room?
If it comes out differently, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put anything sign up sheet until I have this totally figured out, so.
Well, we need to get it figured out though, because it's
Yeah.
in the 5th.
Hopefully I'll have this figured out next
Here
week.
before I know it. Does any board member have any comments on that?
we can afford to just do it.
Yeah, now we
Right.
would still have to take the checks up front, and the reason we do
Oh.
that is because we can't have people reserving, thinking, well, I don't have any skin in the game, so I'm just not gonna show up. But if they pay, and what our experience has been in the past, if we take the ticket the money up front from them, then when they get to the door, they get their check. They don't show, then they don't get their check back, and that prevents the club from buying a lot of extra meals that nobody's gonna eat, and nobody gets that food and it just goes to waste. So I think we would still have to do that in my
Oh,
opinion.
I agree.
Okay,
It's
do
just
I
a
hear,
safety
do
factor.
I hear a motion to that effect, that we go ahead and the club will be paying for the entire Christmas holiday party?
Not to exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed, $5,000. And that, reimbursement, the checks that are written for their reservation will be handed back to them, and there will be no question about whether it was a member or a non-member making the payment.
They can
How's
write
that?
one check then too.
Yeah, they could write one check and we can tell them that.
Go ahead,
I make motion.
second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded that we this year, and this is not setting a precedent, but we this year.
This is a one and done.
We this year, because of the tax issue, is not really created by our membership, it was an uncontrollable situation. So we this year will totally fund the Christmas holiday party by receiving reservation checks and then giving them back at the door, the amount not to exceed $5,000. Is that what we said? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same? Thank you.
Sweet, thanks guys.
All right.
Sure.
I'm on it.
What you need?
Anyway.
And I wonder if we don't remember.
I
I have-
will.
can I have your
got that for
notes?
you. Okay. Yeah, there are some on the menu.
Oh, it's over.
What I'll do is on the sign-up sheet, I'll ask if people have
But
any
it was in the budget.
food restrictions and tell me what they are and I'll do the best I can.
That's all right. All
Yeah,
right.
it's not gonna be more than 5 or 10, so it's not gonna
Okay.
mess up anything.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you
very
guys.
much. Okay, we'll go back up. I know we don't have a membership report today unless somebody else does. I think we're up to about 375 members, 377 members, including all of our members on the roster at this time. Michelle and Arlie, do you have something for education?
Nothing new or crucial.
You have a big deal coming up on the 11th. At least.
There we
Whoa,
go.
this is-
I was making you the star whether you were walking up or not.
Education has beginning hand building classes scheduled last the next couple of months. We've got a couple more workshops coming up to finish out the year. Great big Sandy Blaine class coming up on the 11th of November. Everything's organized and ready. And final details we're gonna work out today on lunch, but everything else is ready. Got people help us set up the room and stuff like that. Next year, we're already planning our outside teachers, and we've got some new members who are gonna be offering classes, so we're getting that organized and getting that ready to start in January. So I think that's it.
Yep.
Good, sounds good.
Oh, and more raccoon firings, yes.
Off the top of your head, would you tell us how many people have taken beginning hand building this year? I know I always ask you that.
I was going to do that and come up with like a final report for the December meeting
Perfect. No
with all the
problem.
classes, everything we've done.
No problem.
Okay.
I don't see Mary Ann here, so we don't have anything for procurement, and I don't see anybody from kilns and glazing, so we'll skip them right now. VP reports, Barb?
All I have to report is I ordered new stickers. And I mentioned it the other day, but they are waiting on the paper to run them on.
Okay. But they've increased in price substantially.
They have increased in price, one reason being we have to pay a setup fee because we had to find a new company to do it. So we won't have that setup fee after this year.
So that's good.
And he gave me kind of an estimate of what it is. He said it could be lower if her setup wasn't complicated. But at this point, it's around $370 for the stickers.
But that's kind of like an annual rate, right? Does that take care of the whole year, probably?
I think so, I mean, we're running, I'm pretty sure we have enough green stickers, if not, nobody gets to bisque until the ships come in. What can I say? You know, no, I'll take a marker and I'll color the orange ones green if I have to, but we have enough, plenty of orange. And I really think we'll have plenty of green if we get them within the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not too confident of that, but, people are buying them a lot more now. Maybe because we have more people coming back, but instead of buying 1 strip, they're buying 2 or 3 or whatever, so. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll color code some if I have to.
Anything else we're looking at buying or anything right now, or not, are we?
No, not really.
Okay, well, the only other thing that, that's kind of going on, that you may not be aware of, because I probably didn't tell you, is we've been talking about whether or not the club should buy an iPad to do videos, or whether we should do it with computers, and I need to have a meeting with like Merle and Arlie and Linda Connell and myself, to talk that through, what the options are, so that we can figure out going forward what we're gonna do. So, and if that comes to if it comes through, we'll probably need to buy something like that in December. The other thing in December that needs to be purchased, I believe, if I'm correct, is we will have to renew our accounting system. And we'll do that in conjunction with next year's treasures, okay? So we'll think that through before we do it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Janet, you've had a very busy month, and not such a
Yes.
happy month.
Yes, it's been interesting. I sent out an email to people that have not met their qualifications for this year, the 4 monitorings and 24 visits, and I've gotten a lot of interesting information or responses to those emails, and I'm getting ready to send them out again. My list has gone down from, gosh, close to 200, so now it's down around 100. So it's been interesting, so. And, cause I've got some people that have like 50 visits and no monitors, and I don't know why. So, and then I need to put out there that we now have plenty of monitoring slots now that we're open, needing 2 people every time we need to, so. It's getting better. I gotta say, I've gotten more positive, nice responses than I've got bad ones, but the bad ones are the ones that hurt you, so.
Well, I'm just very disappointed, you know, we are all, everybody in this room standing here today, we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
And just about every member of this club is a volunteer some way or the other, whether it's on monitoring or whatever. And I think we just all need to be mindful that these jobs have to be done. It wasn't a job that any specific person designed. And we attempt very hard to make sure that people that are on committees are identified, but if they're not, all it requires is a nice phone call that says, hey, you might have missed something here, this is what we've got, or what I think what I did. And we'll investigate it and make a decision on each individual case as we move forward. And that's all we ask for people to do.
It's been really hard not getting snarky, but I've been chewing on my tongue,
But have you gotten reports?
holding my hand so I don't type anything I shouldn't, so.
Have you gotten reports from the committees verifying
Not all
people
of
and
them.
stuff?
I keep getting new ones, I've tried,
I know. Oh, I know.
I've tried. So.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your efforts, and we
Thank you.
appreciate the fact that what we have to do. And we also appreciate the fact that there are members that have not been able to come back across the border. There are members that have made choices not to come for health reasons, and I get that too.
But
We
tell me.
No, we just need to know, we don't read minds very well.
No,
And we
yeah, just
probably
let me
don't
know.
want to. So, but I thank you very much for doing all that.
These are mostly the people that have lockers already.
Yeah.
If you don't have a locker, yeah, I don't care.
So what was the
But
number?
if you, I'm down to just a little under 100,
Good, that's good.
so.
That's a big improvement from the last time we did
Yes.
this. All right, thank you.
Well, we have more opportunity for people too now because we're doing double shift
Yeah.
or double monitors, so
We're
maybe
gonna
that
talk about that at the end.
Will help.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, another time with the tax status. Last meeting, we all talked about, we voted to enter into agreement with the Silvercraft Club to have a meeting with a nonprofit tax attorney. And the meeting was held via Zoom, and we have a recap of that meeting. And there's just some good things stated in that meeting, and there were some things that, you know, we just need to make decisions moving forward. I will tell you, rather than, you know, go through every item at this time, what we've done is we've taken this information this attorney gave us. They gave us some reading materials, some government materials, and, you know, she's given us a chart that shows the difference between a 501c4, a 501c3, and a 501c7. One of the things we heard clearly in that meeting was she recommends that the Clay Club remains a 501c7 because it's recreational, social, moving forward. And that, as from my perspective, because the rec center is not going to allow us to have sales, whether we are a 501c3 or a 501c7, that is you know, I think there's not a problem with that. I don't think it prevents us from doing anything that we want to do moving forward. But what we've done is, many of you know Rob Upton, and he is a professional. He's trained as, or he is an attorney. So we're going to have him look at all these documents so that we can take his perspective on this. Then once that's done, what I am proposing to the new board, the 2022 board and the 2021 board, is that we all sit down together, look at the facts, and make sure that if there's any decision made, which the decision that we need to make right now is simply how we file our taxes for 2021. That decision will be made between the two boards together, so, because we can do it based on what we did in 2021, but they're gonna be looking at the future and how that may or may not affect the club. So I wanna be sure that we have total agreement, that this, as we move forward, we're doing what we wanna do. And the only question in my mind is whether or not, one of the things, or a couple of things this attorney told us was, first of all, she thought it was a slim chance that the IRS would come back to us on our past taxes. There's a 3-year liability behind us. But we have to decide whether we go to the IRS and say, you know, we know that it was been a mistake here, this is why the mistake has happened, and we have ceased doing sales, which was the big problem. And so, do we owe taxes or not? They could very easily say, no, you don't owe any, and you don't lose your nonprofit status. Or we could say, okay, let's just file like we always have, per what the rec center is recommending, and see if they ever knock on our door. I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't think any of us do until we give Rob an opportunity. Now, he's out of town right now having a fun vacation. And so I've asked him when he gets back and gets settled next week, I've sent him all the information I have from the attorney, and we'll be trying to do that. So there's really no decision to be made right now. And frankly, the decision we need to be made is about the taxes this year. And that's one that needs to be made by the middle of January, I would say. Doesn't have to be made right now. But the decision as to whether or not we want to ever change to be a 501c3 or a 4 or whatever it is, that can be made anytime. That does not have to be made now. We can do it in 5 years if we chose, for whatever reason. So I don't think that's a decision we all have to deal with. So we're taking it one step at a time, and it's been a long, and I'm still waiting to see if the rec center comes up with any specific things in writing. Because at this time, we have not received information like that in writing. So that's where we are on that. Does anybody have any questions, and is that confused you? Looked at me already like maybe I confused you too. I'm sorry if I did. Yeah, do you have a question?
No, it's just tough because things aren't settled. So how are we supposed to make decisions when it's not settled?
Well, the only decisions, in my opinion, that we have to make, and we've already made them, and that is we're not going to do any more sales because we're gonna act like a 501c7 moving forward until this club makes another determination. We have to do that until we change our status. And even if we chose to change our status, it requires getting other people like a CPA or a tax attorney involved, filing with the IRS. There is a time frame that takes. The last one I did like this many years ago, and it's been over 20 years ago, was a 501, taking an organization to a 501c3. It took us about 2 years to get it done. Once you file the paperwork, it's just a long process. But that was also not too long after 9/11. So things were different then. And the other thing is I have no idea what the cost would be. But my point in saying we don't have to make that decision now. As long as we just say, right now, we're a 501c7, which we are, and we act like a 501c7 tax-wise, which means no sales from outside sources other than anybody that's on the membership except for like 15% of the total receipts, then we're good going forward. Okay, does that explain to you? And the bind we're in this year is we had a pot party on April 24th.
Right.
And we did $22,000 worth of sales. Now, I did also find this out from the tax attorney, and this, I kind of skipped over this, I'm sorry. She told us that if we owe 3 years back taxes, for example, or even if we file with these sales this year, you can actually take the net value of those sales that should not have been received. So, for example, if the $22,000 that we sold at the pot party, we can say, well, we wrote checks back to the sellers, we wrote check to the village store, we paid those 16%, we paid the local sales tax, and the net to the club was 5%. My understanding with her is we would only pay taxes on that 5%, not the whole $22,000. And see, there's been some question about this with the rec center. The way they present, or the way I interpret it when it's been presented several times.
Right, because I thought they were saying gross.
Well, the IRS standards for a 501c7 is gross, but as you read the tax status, and this is why I need Rob to do this, I can only interpret it the best to my abilities, which is not near like his level. My understanding is anytime you realize that you owe taxes, then it's only on the net of those taxes that you owe on those sales. So I'm hoping that I'm understanding that correct. She thought she indicated it was a slim opportunity that the IRS would come after us, and that there were opportunities for us to make these net numbers instead of gross numbers on the amount that you owed. And going forward, the rec center is also gonna require all clubs, not just clubs that have over $50,000 in receipts, to file 990, which for some smaller clubs, that will be a new thing. It won't be new for us, though. Okay? Okay, and I should put a CYA on there, say, I hope I've just done this the whole way wrong. So I don't have anything else to say on that. We're gonna work with some people here and see where we go before we make any decisions. But I want the organization to know this is not a decision for this board. This is a decision for this year's board and next year's together, and we will listen to everybody's point of view. The rec center is giving us a different point of view than the tax attorney, which we kind of knew that was going to happen. Report on the charter club. This is only just to tell everybody that we are on the list for 22-23 for the monitoring station. They put in the budget $30,000, accepting 20 from us to help offset the expenditures. The 20,000 was a number that Carl Wilhelm's group put into the budget, but it's there. Now, the budget finance and the budget it's finalized in November and goes to the general manager. Every charter club, the properties committee and the budget and finance committees that we spoke to, that Lee Phillips and I spoke to, clearly said they approved it and went on. So it should be a done deal, and it appears that hopefully the club will get this done next summer when it's the lowest number of people. So we're moving forward on that. The ballot, I laid it on the table. The electronic ballot will be the week of November 15th. It will start at 8 a.m. in the morning on that Monday, and it will end on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And we probably will have the results that Friday on the 19th. The ballot looks like this. You must fill out with your first and last name the way it is on your rec card. Your rec card number goes in here, and then you vote for each position, yes, no, okay? And those will be sent out by the rec center. We will have some opportunities because it appears that when it's a Gmail account, a lot of times it falls into your promotion category on your computer. I don't have, well, I use a Gmail, but I don't use it with the Clay Club. So we will try to re-emphasize that with our members, because even last time when we did the monitoring ballot, we had a number of calls, and then they'd say, after we sent them a new ballot, they'd say, oh, we found it. Okay, and you can only vote once, and the rec center cleans that out, you know, and make sure it's only one vote per person. And so we'll just be trying to notify people, this is when it's coming, watch for it, and this is the best way we can tell you, because it comes through SurveyMonkey. It doesn't say rec center, it doesn't say Clay Club, it says SurveyMonkey or something silly like that. So it's kind of an unidentifiable if you don't know what you're looking for. But we will, and they will hit the system at 8 a.m. on that Monday morning. And so, and we worked real hard with the membership committee with Kathleen Bailey on making sure every member that's a new member by that time will be on the list. And the correct email is in it. So, anybody that has new emails, let us know right away. And we'll get that taken care of, because we have to turn that in Thursday. Okay, that gets us through any other unfinished business. Okay, moving right on to new business. We had a meeting, and it's on the table. There is a new policy and procedure from, for the Blaze and Kiln Committee. Now, I will tell you, this is the version you see there is the most up to date. And we've had we've had 6 or 8 members that have stepped forward and said, you know what, I'm not sure this is a good idea for the club, because part of this policy is that we will have, the question with some members was, can we do our own glazing, can we mix our own glazes with chemicals, and can we use the kilns to fire them differently? Some of these glazes run really bad. They're not commercial glazes. They're handmade glazes that are made with the same chemicals that we use, which can be, I think they're pretty toxic sometimes, aren't they? Yeah. So anyway, long story short, we've had some pros and cons both ways. I will tell you, I'm not prepared to ask you guys to vote today on this. I want to give you plenty of time to read it. I want to give the membership plenty of time, once we post these as an example, to give us input, and we will decide in December if there's any final changes on this before we vote on it, if that's appropriate with this group. You agree with that? Because I know you didn't see this till this morning, so that's not really fair for you to vote on something you haven't seen and looked at. And I want to be sure that I hear back, and I don't see them here today, from the Glaze Committee and the Kiln Committee chair people also. Specifically, Glaze asked me to do one other thing, and I put it in there this morning, but I want to be sure I've done it the way they asked it. So I don't want to ask for a vote on this policy today. And these are policies to go in the policy and procedure books, and it's really a matter of updating for the Glaze and the Kiln Committee what we do, okay? Right now as a club. We did get, I started to talk about the objections I got a couple written notes, I've got some verbal messages from people that just said simply, why do we need to have something like this going on? And, you know, the position that we have in the policy is we really don't accept under special conditions. In other words, a special class. So that any member that is ready for advanced glazing and advanced techniques could be involved in a training and possibility of development. A number of people that I've talked to have said, you know, I don't want to be involved in mixing those toxic. So there's a lot of questions, but we tried to leave an option that would allow us to do kind of what we do with Raccoon. Raccoon's a good example. We don't do it every day. We don't do it every month even, because we don't do it in the summertime at all. But we do offer what I would consider controlled classes. They have to come to some safety training before they come to Raccoon, because it is a safety issue. And so some of those things could be built into glazing issues too. The other thing is we have only X amount of kilns. We have 6 inside, and right now, because of shipping issues and supply issues, we cannot buy any more coils. The skunk, kiln company is not selling them to outside people. The coils they have, they're maintaining for orders on a brand new kiln. They won't even sell them to us. We're down to one set, and we can't even buy another set right now. So we kinda have to take care of our kilns the best way we can, at least through this supply scenario. Is it gonna end this year? I don't know. Is it next year? I'm sure hoping. But because of that, I think we have to be very careful about what we've got. Because we have a big membership that we need to service. We can't just service one or two and then decide, well, that wasn't such a good idea. The other thing is, through the summer, you know, of course, we don't use the back kilns. We do have back kilns that can be specially used with special permission, the way this policy is written, but not just open for everyday use and that kind of thing. Yes, ma'am?
Are the outside, I thought the outside kilns were used in the winter when we had more members, just
That's
used
the other thing
normally.
we really do with them. Little Audrey is used for tests.
Right,
If you wanna test something, or you got something you wanna run yourself, Little Audrey is used for that. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, cause you know better than I do, Little Audrey is not programmable.
No,
So you
right.
kinda have to sit there and watch it, if you're gonna
Right.
buy a load for Little Audrey. The other ones are programmable, but you're right. They are run in the winter time, and one of the reasons we don't run them in the summertime, even if we needed them, was it's just,
Too hot.
they're too hot, and the temperatures affect, the heat outside, because it's so hot here in Arizona, affects the internal heat.
Right.
So those aren't used in the summertime. We did get this summer, some people may not know it, but we did get another kiln donated to us, and we're working right now with the rec center to replace our oldest kiln outside, to put this one in. The rec center said they wouldn't let us add another kiln. They said it had to be a replacement, because, you know, they pay the electric bill. And this particular kiln, if it works for us, is taller, and it will allow for some taller pieces than what we're currently doing. But it's a little bit different than our current, and we're waiting to see if the electric is gonna work. Cause it was really a home version of a kiln that had hardly ever been used. And when the people donated that to us, they gave us shelves with it too. And Wham just recently gave us some shelves, so we've been pretty fortunate this year on the donation end of it, so that's good. Does that answer your question, Michelle?
yeah, no, I just
Okay.
thought that they were usable and that they were used in the winter when we had more people.
Yeah, they are,
Yeah.
they are, but we also still we need them to be used by the kiln committee people.
Right, oh, no,
You know.
that's not what I meant, but just,
Yeah, but they are usable. And we're getting, and that's why we need to have our auction coming up, because we got some stuff stored back there with them. Anything else on the kiln? The Candace Memorial Funds, Candace Glassmeyer, there was some question the last time we had this brought up about whether or not we were handling the memorial correctly. And I've received a note from the rec center that says the money can go into the club account as a donation per our office manager. I think it's because it's a lot of the memorial stuff and the naming of places, the naming rights and things like that, and some of these pickleball and baseball parks or whatever. That's what the policy from the rec center really addresses, much more than what they consider a smaller memorial. So I'm gonna recommend, unless somebody tells me different here, that we put this money into the equipment account. It needs to be going out of the general fund, in my opinion, if we're gonna designate it the way we did earlier this year, and that is, it's for a possible kiln.
And I thought that's what we did.
Yeah, we did that.
So are we,
But, well, it's not currently in the equipment account, is that correct, Char?
It's in the checking account.
Yeah, it needs to be
Okay,
removed
move it.
from there to, and I need a motion to that effect. Does anybody have a question?
I have a question. I just heard, but it was my understanding that when they made this donation, that it was for something specific, or it was labeled for education, whatever, or that was Candace's, what she wanted. So that, I never saw anything in writing, I never saw anything, but that's what I kept hearing. And so, if I understand correctly, if a donation is made to somewhere, and it's for a specific purpose, you can't just put it into a general fund, you have to use it for that purpose. Is that correct?
Well, let's see, I got some information here, I think, from, back in 2018, there was a monetary donations for the Sun City West Clay Club Committee made. And that's the only thing we have to go by except for what the rec center gave us, and they've now said basically what we were doing. The proposal reads this: funds to be set aside in a Sun City West Clay Club account and used at the discretion of the club to purchase permanent equipment for the use of the members. Gifts will be acknowledged by the club president with a personal note to the donor. And that was passed back in 2018, and it's not been changed from that time on, as near as I can tell by going through the minutes.
I realize that we ended up with a whole bunch more money than we had,
We did.
but you had sat down with Michelle and I and said, originally, when this first came up, that, you would spend that, we were thinking it was gonna be about $250, $300, whatever it was, that we would spend that on buying a TV.
Right.
And then, all of a sudden, that didn't happen, and it got put into the general fund or equipment or whatever it was. And so we were left with, gee, what happened and why?
Okay, you're exactly right. You and I and Michelle did have a conversation when we first heard there were some memorial monies coming, that we could possibly do that. When the monies grew to $4,800 and some change, and when it was delivered to me by Candace's husband, he asked specifically that it be a item that would be incredible to have her, you know, the memorial attached to it. That would maybe be long lasting. She was very much involved in education, and she agrees with us. She spent her lifetime in education and stuff, things like that. So, given that, after the money grew as much as it did, the board did have a motion that we wanted to put it towards a kiln, because that's a longer lasting item than possibly a TV or something like that. So I would say, the board made a choice to go a different direction than what I had said. And I probably misspoke on behalf of the board. So I think that's where we are, but if it goes into the equipment account, I'm not saying that it does or does not make a TV appear, but it may open up some expenditure for something that we might have not thought was there, because we didn't have another $5,000, for example. I will tell you, one of the people at the rec center has thought that we should put this money towards the monitor station. So when we pull the $20,000 out, that maybe we ought to say, you know, gee, that's a really long-lasting item. We haven't had to buy a kiln. When we first did that, I thought we were gonna have to buy a kiln this year too, because there was one we were having a lot of trouble with, but since that time, I think it's been repaired by Dean from the Marjan. I will tell you, we have some kilns that have pretty long life on them, so at this point, and they probably don't, so therefore they're coming to the end of their life. I mean, it's got enough service, I should say, not life. So it's a catch-22, but the reality of it is, from what the rec center has told me, and when you look at this policy that currently exists, it needs to be, at the very least, moved to the equipment account, where the equipment account is not just general fund and we come in and we use it. You know, it's equipment. And we can dub the monitor station. My conversation with the rec center early on with the monitor station was we could identify that, at least partial of that money coming out of the equipment account instead of just coming out of the general fund. So we do know we have to pay the $20,000 this year, unless for some reason, or not this year, but when it's built. So we know that bill is there for us, so I'm not sure if that answers your question.
If that money did go for the desk, could we put some kind of little plaque or something in memory of her on the desk itself?
I would say not unless the whole thing was funded by that, but.
I don't know. I don't see that this clearly does that, but I think this was part of the reason this policy was generated was because we had about $1,800 from another member that passed away. We do have this is called the Dick Lee Studio, but this was a much it's like 5 times the money we're talking about here of what that family donated. And I think that's the reason the rec center and the properties committee has looked at some of these things, that if it's a very large amount, like if 25,000 came back to us, we would probably be standing in front of those committees saying, can we do this?
Yeah.
I don't think I have a clear answer for you on that, Lynn, but I'll try to get that clarified. I don't know, we did just put a plaque up for Splice.
Yeah.
I need to verify that there wouldn't be any reason we couldn't do that. But maybe it's that says something that clarifies it's not the whole monitor station from her. You know,
Right, or
something
just
like
a
that.
part of it or something
Yeah.
like that. It just
That
sounded like.
answers my question, because
I don't know what it does.
you know, Bell, as far as, I thought if he did that on that, it probably is something that fund would have to pay for it in its entirety, but
He paid for the whole.
like Heat for Spice, that wasn't the
There was
case
no
as far as the
money there.
kiln room and stuff, so I wasn't, I think it would be a great idea, because the club was very important to her, and, you know, I think it
And
would
it
be a
sounds
great
like her
idea to do
family
that.
was hoping that it could be something that we could.
I don't see anything wrong with that as far as but, yeah.
Well, her family asked in the memorials in her hometown that the money come to the Clay Club, and that's what it did. Quite a bit of it came here, as you can tell. I can't say one way or the other. I think it's one of those things, well, if somebody passes away and somebody gives $50, no, we don't need a plaque up there that does that. I think at some point, there should be an amount. I don't know what because you literally, as many members as we have in the age bracket that we can have a lot of plaques in this area. But there
Good
was
point.
nothing, Spice had been with the club for over 20 years, I believe, and had been in charge of the kiln room for all that time, and brought us a lot of expertise. Now, would you wanna do something, for a Cantrell place? Probably not, cause I don't have near as much time and effort in the club, but it's kinda one of those questions, where do you draw the line? Where do you put the money and how do you use it?
Agreed. Because the club did already approve the whole 20,000 to be spent from club funds, which was
Right.
not including Candace's money, so. Okay.
Well, yes and no on that, because the club has $76,000 as we reported today. There was never identification except what people have talked about. Where's that money come from? Well, I looked at the funds we had as a club and I said, okay, you've got $22,000 in an operational account. You could pull it all out of there. Or, in order to keep a operational account, which is for when things aren't great, we go to that account, basically, is what it amounts to, and pull money out of it. We can pull money out of that account at any time, the way the accounting system works here. One of the reasons we have an operational account, honestly, is we use Visa debit cards for purchasing in this club. So that if somebody steals one of those cards, instead of having all of our money, $77,000 in an account that could be stolen out of immediately, we've minimized that by putting it up against the general account, which has what, $14,000, and 5 of it is it's about $9,000 without the Klossmeyer deal. So, and we can, if that got down by the end of the year that we needed funds, the money would come out of that operational account. It would go back up into the general account and would be used. The equipment account is the account that actually is the largest for us, and when I asked the question of the accounting department, because I wanted to know if we could use those accounts for that remodel. Because if we couldn't, we didn't have $20,000 from my perspective for the club to even vote on that. But the answer I was given was, yes, you can say that that's part of equipment. I think you could write the whole check out of that. But that might run your equipment account down too low if you suddenly had 2 or 3 kilns go out. So I think it's a mix out of the accounts. I don't think it's out of one specific account, but somebody else might have a different opinion of that. I based it on the experience I had as the treasurer, and then, and kind of this policy here, but we don't really have any specific guidelines to say, okay, this is what you would normally do for a remodel or whatever, and it's kind of a gray area. How would you want to do that?
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. Okay, well, I thought maybe you had a suggestion, and that's fine, and I, would welcome anybody's input into that. And certainly Char's input into it, and next year's, Char and I won't be making those decisions next year, the next board will. That's always an easy answer. Next board does that on moving down the road, but I'm very confident we have the money as a club to do that expenditure, and that was what I wanted to be confident of when we ran that election, because there's nothing worse than running an election, everybody votes on buying a piece of something, and then it not being available to the club, so. I don't know that that's kind of a long way around the bush. I would kind of like to revisit with the rec center if there's any limitations to, could we put a plaque on that? And now that it's going into the equipment account, it would really make good sense if it goes on that instead of, I don't think the Klassmeyer family would have a problem if they knew there was something that could be looked at that was of similar value to that total amount that they've donated that says that possibly has recognition for her time with the club. Most of our other times, other than the Dick Lee scenario, were under $2,000. That's a little bit different than $5,000. Just the way I would view it, but maybe I'm not right. Okay. And we're still, and off topic for just a minute, I just talked to Dave Bennett this week, and they're still looking at how to do this. Because what they're thinking about doing is setting it up so, because they think even if you tone down the glare here, you're gonna still have let's say you just dim them. They think you're gonna still have a glare for this TV. And when I asked them to do this, work on this glare issue, I said, you need to remember, we're gonna put a TV up here eventually. One day, there's gonna be a TV there. And so don't just fix it for that TV, fix it for the whole room. His recommendation now is, and they're still waiting on costs, but what his recommendation is that we actually turn off all these lights and take one or two of these and make them like a security light, so that you can dim the whole room and then leave a backlight here. Okay, that's what Dave talked to me about the other day. I'm still waiting on an answer from him, so it hasn't gotten done. Yes, ma'am.
The problem with that is that we use the televisions for people who are sitting in the back working on a project, so if we dimmed all the lights, they wouldn't see what they were working on.
Well, see, and I was thinking more about the videos that you watch.
Yeah, that's different.
And it would probably work for that. Does the glare, and my apologies to you, I haven't been into a session where I've actually had to use a TV. Does the glare affect it when there is live TV going on, where
Yes.
It does?
Yeah, when we're demonstrating, yeah.
Okay, I need to explain that to Dave, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't made a decision, they're still waiting on costs, and whether or not the LED lights that they put in here are really conducive to all the things we want done. But what I don't understand is, I understood that they already had done this in the yoga room, so.
I'm not sure, they have sconces around the edge, I don't know if they dim or if they just turn everything off. I'm there twice a week, you'd think I'd
But
pay
they probably
attention.
don't, they probably don't have these ceiling lights, is that what you're saying?
They do, but then they turn them all off and then they turn on just sconce lights that are around the room.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Might it be another thought, and I don't know, aren't there covers for TVs to,
Like a visor or something?
well, maybe a visor, or sometimes I think like even for
The glare
outdoors,
screen?
they have covers that cover the whole screen. And maybe it might be something we could just look into to
Put the
see if
TV
it.
between the two lights, it's not.
Well, but
Well,
I think wherever it is, like if I come over here, I still see that over there. So I think anytime there's light in the room, it reflects, but I think these things like dim the whole, like TV, it's for using, like, you know how they have outdoor TVs that don't do the glare? I think they have covers that like replicate that, but are less than the non-glare TVs.
I don't know, and that's part of our issue with where we go from here. Do we wanna buy anything else before we got this fixed? You know, that was one of my scenarios, quite candidly, is we need to make sure this is working before we invest in this. I wanna be
Well,
sure that
it
we're not
works
making.
really well. I mean,
It
we've
does.
gotten
Except
so
we
many
got
like,
problems
oh,
with the
thank you
lighting.
so much.
Yeah.
Despite the glare, people still try to use it and they really like, thank you. Because it does help if you're sitting in the back and, you know, there are 10, 12 people in class. But maybe that idea of some sort of cover, it's worth
We
looking into.
could just research it and see if there's any potential.
That
It
would
might-
probably be a whole lot cheaper than redoing the lighting.
It might
Yeah.
be, Marty.
You know,
Yeah.
but there, you know, and if the club needs the lighting redone and we need to spend the money, and that may be what the rec center says, well, this is want versus need, back to that scenario. And we say we need this, or we want it, and we pay for it. But it needs to be done once, not 3 times. You know how that goes. Anything else? All right, so, did we make a motion to move that canvas, money to the, equipment account? Do I hear a motion that we move it to the equipment account and then it's identified for equipment, one way or the other? Motion made and second that we move the canvas Glassmeyer Memorial Fund, I think it's $4,825 maybe, to the equipment account. To be earmarked for a specified, to be determined, item, I guess. That's all I have on the new business. Anybody else have anything? General comments, I will tell you there will be no general membership meeting in December because we don't have one. We do have one coming up November the 11th, so we'll have that, and that's at 10 o'clock in the Sagebrush, or no, it's 9 o'clock, I'm sorry, 9 o'clock in the Sagebrush, and I will remind everybody that there will be a class that day, as Sandy Blaine in here will be asking people not to come into this room that day. We'll have a lot of people in the club in and out, that kind of thing, but we'll try to keep it at the minimum noise level while we do that. Anything else? Anybody wanna add anything?
I'm good.
Good. All right. Anything from the audience? No? All good to go? All right, well, thank you all very much. I call for, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Adjourn,
Second.
please. Motion made and seconded, we adjourn it. All right, here we go. I'm sorry, I'm back. Clay Club check-in system. We're running a test with the rec center. It begins on Monday. And that's one of the reasons and what it is, it's a system where it's been designed by the rec center to check in and verify when our members are in the club and when, they've left. And then we will continue with our own check-in system because right now we don't know whether or not we're gonna be able to pull enough information for like knowing how many times you've been in the club, whether you've monitored. Some of those questions are still in the air. So at least until January 1st, and probably longer, we will be using 2 check-ins. And they'll be side by side, there will be 2 small monitors to be used. We're getting that equipment and it's all set up, this week. And then that's why we're asking for 2 monitors at a time for the rest of the year. One monitor will be outside the monitor station with the table kind of showing people how to check in. We will be and then the other monitor will be selling and doing whatever else we need to do. We are also changing in relationship with this project because it's going to be done when the new monitor station is built anyway. We're gonna change our entrance to the middle studio. And the other day we found out we have no key for that door. So we're working on that.
Did they find one?
No,
Yeah,
they're
okay.
the key, but they're gonna rekey it with the same key. And in the meantime, we've also moved, and because we're changing the exit in, doorway to the one we're currently using, we have moved the, Sign Up Genius to that doorway there on the little white computer. So the traffic's gonna be changing, we'll have monitors here to help everybody and it's not as hard as it sounds like, but I will tell you one thing about the rec center is when you, have your card read, your picture comes up. I think a card number has to go in there, and if you belong to more than one club in Sun City West, you have to identify that you're at the Clay Club. and that's very important, and we'll be asking people, when they come in, the only thing really different than what we're currently doing, if I come in and I'm here for an hour or so, and then I leave and I come back, I have to recheck back in. All right?
Okay.
So, and we'll probably just do that on the rec center's check-in. I don't know.
So are you saying, when I check in, if I have 3 clubs that pop up, the monitor needs to go in and identify play club?
Well, you will
Or
do that.
I will.
I think
Okay.
there's a way you're going to do it, but
So
we're
you
still
can only
working on the
check in.
training, so
Okay,
I don't
alright.
know that I can answer that.
I wasn't sure.
You're right, Margie. You're correct.
Yeah, okay. The monitor does it, or I do it, yeah. Okay, but you'll always glad to see your shiny face.
So if you leave on the rec center system, if you leave and come back, you have to sign in again?
Yes. And I think
That'll be a change for people to remember.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
And we need to think about, our group here needs to think about what would it cost for you if I check in 3 times in one day on our system?
On our system, I'd kick you out.
Oh, okay.
I kick out the 2 extras for that
Yeah,
day.
but what's that, how's that you?
Or I don't do it, Linda does it.
How,
It's Mike's program that does it?
Yeah.
okay, I don't know, have we decided whether
Yeah, I
we
don't
need
know.
to, in other words, are we gonna train our members to only check back in on the rec center, or are we gonna train them to just do it on both and then contend with the problem?
I don't know, that's a decision that has to be made.
I think I was kinda waiting until we saw all this boiled down, but,
And is there a time amount that you're away and come back? I mean, if you're run down the hall for a
No,
second.
no.
come
No,
back
if you're leaving,
versus an
leaving
hour or two.
the facility, I would
yeah,
say, I
come
would
back.
guess, that's what they mean. And then come back later, like I'll come in the morning and then I come back in the afternoon,
yeah,
and
we're
sometimes
gonna
at
have
night,
to
so.
figure this out this weekend. I thought the hardware would be here by now, but it's not. I'm a little worried about that.
And it starts Monday?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But it's only Friday.
And the good news is though,
It may
just
be.
as a caveat, everything that goes on between now and the end of the year with the rec center, that records are gonna be wiped out and they're gonna start brand new on January 1st. So if we mess up the rec center's system, checking in, it's not such a big deal, but our system, we still have to know how many times you've been here and whether you've monitored. Part of the problem with part of the reason we must have 2 check-in systems right now is they were not able to develop how to identify who the monitors were in their system. So we are considering other avenues for that as well. But we wanna run our system simultaneously so that at the end of the year, we still have our records. Theirs gets wiped out, and so we will decide by January 1st whether we're gonna continue running 2 systems or whether it's gonna go to 1. I mean, this is a test, and that's what it is. We're testing it for a lot of other clubs too, so what happens here will be consideration as they move forward. And they're still working on the software. We're in phase 1. I'm very young in phase 1, I think. I'm sorry, I had to reconvene for that. Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Merle. Sorry.